this is Soma79, host of the Articulate Ox podcast, where artists talk about the art that made them artistic. Thank you so much for joining us today. My guest today is Concept the Hashtronaut, who is a rapper. He runs a record label, manager, he cooks, all this great stuff down in San Antonio, Texas. It was a really great conversation we had today about MF Doom, who was someone that Concept and I both tremendously admire, and I didn't realize how knowledgeable of a fan Concept was until we actually sat down and talked about it. We talked a little about Doom in the past, but it's fun to talk to somebody who gets as sort of into it as I do and really thinks about it the same way that I do, because those sort of relationships are rare. I mean, that's one of the great things about the internet bringing us together. A Concept and I actually met over Instagram. He had hit me up a few years ago because he saw some of my drawings and just asked me to do an album cover for him. And to be honest, I ignore a lot of those requests. I don't do a lot for people that I don't know on the internet, only because I just don't like investing a lot of time in something and having them either not want to pay me or just never really have that face to face. But I did with him because I checked out his music and I really dug it, and he seemed like a really nice guy, and the idea he had was something that I'd always so he wanted me to do sort of a Sistine Chapel thing, but with instead having two astronauts pass each other a blunt. And I've always wanted to draw astronauts. I've always loved space art, but I've always I had up until that point struggled with really doing a good job at it. So I considered this to be a challenge, and that was one of the other reasons as I said yes, because I knew I was bad at this and it was something I wanted to do more of and get better at. So why not? To a certain degree, I think a lot of artists will try harder for somebody else than they will for themselves sometimes, because they know other people will see it and they don't want to let them down. Or at least that was a situation I felt at that moment. So that's why I said yes, and I was so glad that I did, because on that first drawing, I put a little O and X over the eyes, and that was when my Ox character was born. And Ox is obviously the namesake of this podcast. You see my Ox astronaut character pop up on my album covers, and I've also got an Ox comic that hasn't been released, and you're going to see Ox pop up a lot in the Drinking Songs for Children movie coming out in a year or so. So that was, to me, always very special, that the first time Concept and I worked together, it to me ended up being a very fruitful project that has taken me down in this direction. And just because I sort of believe in these weird sort of cosmic ways of meeting people, I've kept working with Concept, got to know him better and better, and he's a pretty great dude, and he's super talented, and he's super reliable, which is something that you don't really find a lot in hip-hop, unfortunately. But I hope to someday get down to San Antonio and check out the scene he's got going on down there, because it seems like he's really doing some great things, and I totally encourage you to go check him out at Concept the Hashtronaut on Instagram. You know, as I spoke a second ago about the cosmic aspect of it, it reminded me of something that conversation the Concept and I had over text about a year or so ago. I had been around the time my parents had found a lot of my old drawings up in the attic at their house, and they sent them over to me. And one of the ones they sent over was the first ever airbrush painting I ever did. Now I have an airbrush. I barely ever used it, and I had one as a child and only used it a few times. I had really wanted to get good at it, but I think instead I might have discovered, girls or rap or something, and I only did kind of a couple drawings, airbrush paintings. But the first one I ever did was of this cat that sort of looks like, I guess, is it Top Cat, I think. And it's I'm putting up a picture here for the people watching it online. It's just I'm gonna describe it to everybody. It's just basically a cat with a little bit of a goatee, and he's yellow and smiling, got sort of a burgundy outfit on. You only kind of see it from the chest up, and you're missing part of the hat, but it's sort of a reference to like the Top Cat character, sort of, I think, kind of down the lines of like maybe the Heathcliff bad guys to some degree. And so around that same time that my parents had given me that old drawing old airbrush cat that I'd painted, Concept had hit me up with this post that he was going through his old posts, I guess, from Instagram, and found one from 2012, and I'll share this here as well, of a piece of graffiti that he photographed that just said Soma. and next to it was a cat that looked similar to my top hat cat. I mean, similar to the cat that I had in my airbrush picture from my childhood. I mean, it wasn't the one in the graffiti picture Concept shared was much better, but it was the same cat that I was going for, and even some of the colors are similar. And that blew my mind a little bit. It was just, it's because this picture was taken 2012, those years before Concept and I ever talked. And the other thing that's kind of strange about it is right between the word Soma and the cat are the letter. It says N4N, and that 4 looks kind of like an A, and it looks like it spells Nan. And that was what we all called my grandmother, and she was somebody who was tremendously supportive of my art, especially at a young age. So that was just one of those weird cosmic moments where I just kind of sit down and I was like, oh wow, I don't know. It was one of those things where I'm like, I got to keep working with this dude for some reason. I'm not really sure why, and maybe because I'm a little OCD and I believe in a little bit of magic thinking sometimes. Maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's not. But I've always really enjoyed working with Concept. I love everything we've worked on together, and he makes an appearance on Drinking Songs for Children, and I'm very excited for you to hear that when it comes out. And we have another song together called I Know with myself, Concept, and one of his friends, Apollo Black from the San Antonio area as well. I'm excited to share that. It'll most likely be out by the time this episode is out, so go look for that. And I will also be including at the end of this episode one of Concept songs. I believe it's one called Woes he'll be sending me. So definitely give that a listen and check out Concept the Hashtronaut on all streaming services. Give him a listen. If you're ever in the San Antonio area, go check out a show. So, and you can find him at Concept the Hashtronaut on Instagram and at Good Herb Records. So look up Good Herb Records. That is Concept as well. That is his record company and management company, all that good stuff. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoy our interview and our talk about MF Doom. Hello, this is Soma79 with the Articulate Podcast. We are here today with Concept the Hashtronaut, San Antonio's finest rapper, producer extraordinaire, all that good stuff. We'll pretend that wasn't take two. So we are here today to talk about someone that I love and he loves, and that's MF Doom. I have to admit, one of the ideas behind this podcast was to expose me to shit that I don't already know. But I'm realizing I'm more than happy to talk about stuff that I do already know, because there's very few people I know that like to talk about Doom. So Concept, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm having a doom-tastic day, you know what I mean? For sure.
Awesome, happy MF Monday.
Yeah, you know, man, for sure. I was bumping some Operation Doomsday earlier in preparation, you know what I'm saying?
What do you think your favorite record is?
Um, of all time?
Yeah, I guess we'll jump off with there. Like, it's just this. I spent some time today going through a lot of them. I listened to a lot of Doom today because I just want to refamiliarize, and it's like, it's all so good.
Yeah, it's really, really hard for me, but I'm not gonna lie, like what immediately jumped out in my mind is Phasers, Take Me to Your Leader.
Oh man, I love that record.
You know what I mean? Mind you, that probably isn't my favorite, but like off initial reaction, that's what came to mind. Just that the way that beat comes in, you know what I mean? It's just beautiful.
Yeah. For me, I think it might be Meat Grinder. That's the one that always gets me. The tripping off the meat grinder. Yeah, I love that shit. Like
his flow and that is crazy. You know what I mean?
I looked up the lyrics of that today, and it's like where he goes he says, Hackathuan songs lit in the booth with the best host, doing bong hits on the roof in the West Coast.
Yes.
I don't know what Hackathuan is. And it's like, that's my favorite line forever, but I guess I didn't
ignore no. It's an onomatopoeia.
Oh, okay. All right. Dude. Oh, spitting. Holy shit, that's even
oh man. Now you're learning something you didn't know.
That's wild. Holy shit. That's like that. You're not gonna get that in the first.
Come on, man. I know, man.
Hackathuan songs lit in the booth with the best host, doing bong hits on the
doing songs lit in a yes.
It's just, and it's every line of it. Just it's so perfectly lined up, and it's
right.
It's funny. Like I realized that this. I was watching this thing yesterday about the Craigslist killer, who was, I don't know if you remember him. It happened. It was a guy up here who Right. He went to the same college as me, and at the time, he lived in the neighboring building as my girlfriend.
No
And
way.
yeah, and like, and a lot of my friends out there knew that, and they knew that I was the same height and blonde, and they were like, "I think Tim might be the Craigslist killer." And so, like, I was watching this thing on him yesterday, and they're showing the cops doing a stakeout of the building. I'm like, I was like probably there. They probably scoped me out. But then I
Right.
was like writing notes, and I'm like, all right, Craigslist killer. Like, what is gonna rhyme on perfectly in line with that? And that comes directly from Doom, where it's just like it just hits. Like, if for a rapper who raps off beat so often, it's so crazy that it's like when he does, it's just like bing, 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 bing.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an incredible talent, man, to be able to match syllables like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He says on Operation Doomsday, at least rhyme to the syllable, keep tracks to make an A-rap feet clap. You know what I'm saying?
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, he has endless quotables. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
And it's funny because even today in Accordion, which is one of the songs by him I think I've heard the most, I caught a line I never heard before. He goes, "Can he testify from in a spirit?" And I was like, "Oh, he means he can't testify because he's a ghost. He's dead." And
Oh,
I was like, I didn't.
that's one of my favorite lines by him because that's so hard. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like that's one of the hardest lines that he has. You know?
You know what I picked out from him that I use in my thing is that, like, you sort of like, it's okay to break the laws of English if it all makes a point when you sit and look at it, because no
Right.
one says in a spirit. Like, you really like, or like, that might not, if you just said the phrase in a spirit, the idea of being a ghost might be the third thing you come to, because I might think, oh, in the spirit, like in an alcohol, like a spirit.
Right. Nah, for sure.
Yeah, or then even just like in the spirit of something is probably where my brain probably went. But then when I actually looked at it, I'm like, oh man, that's what it means. Like,
Right. Rap brain is gonna be different because
yeah,
you're intentionally rearranging the words for a sonic effect and they make sense contextually. You know what I'm saying?
right. If you do it right, and it's like that's the
Right,
difference
right.
between doing it right, not doing it right, is like
That's
that.
true too. Some shit can be real nonsensical. Some cool Keith.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I did a song with Cool Keith on my album that you're on. We'll talk about
Right.
that. Drinking Songs for Children. We have a couple songs together that'll be coming out in the next year or so. But when I first got the verse back from Cool Keith, I wasn't certain it was lined up to the beat right. And I talked to my producer. I'm like, move that thing around a little bit and see what it does. It's like, I don't know whether, and eventually we landed on where it began, but I was just like, he got me. Like, it just sounds a little off, you know.
Right, right. But that's his
Right.
style. I've seen him live, and he does the same shit to a T live. You know what I
That's so
mean? Like,
crazy.
yeah, it's nuts to be programmed that way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because it's not something you even choose, because you have to be really, it's like it's a deterrent for a lot of listeners. But like,
Straight up.
and that's actually one thing I want to talk about with Doom. So with Doom, so I've been listening to him. I think the first time I got a Doom record was in like the early 2000s. I got the Dead Bent single, and they sent me this freaking
Like
t-shirt.
12-inch or like
Yeah, I got it here actually. The Dead Bent 12-inch, which I think was
nice.
from Turntable Lab. Yeah, and then it came with this shirt that I still have, this is literally the softest shirt I've ever owned in my life, and like I own it to this day, and it's just the cover, and it's so
Man,
basic.
that's
The gray
insane.
says Dead Doomsday on it, but like it even smells like something I should have thrown out a long time ago.
Yeah,
Like,
and I feel like even with that sin on it, that thing should be in a museum
yeah,
somewhere.
I would wear that was my lucky shirt. Every time I had a job interview or something, I'd wear that underneath it for years. So I don't know. It's but yeah, so that for me was I was at a time for me where I was just like I was getting into making hip hop, and I really was like, okay, what is the underground stuff that I heard of but haven't heard? So I went
Right.
out and bought like the Atmosphere records and like the Doom records, and like I
Okay,
think
now.
at the time, like I didn't even know which one was the guy with the mask, but I knew of the records I was buying, it was one of them. And then I just like was like, it was just on, you know. And
Yeah,
I
I
had,
mean, his voice has a way of kind of just like lulling you in. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Where you're like, okay, now I'm more interested in this character because his voice is so compelling and shit. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't sound like a lot of other people.
Yeah. Now, do you think that, I'm seeing now his name is getting mentioned in a lot more places now that he's passed, and a lot more people are being vocal about being fans. Do you think there is a mainstream audience for someone like Doom? Because there were times that I wondered that I think it took me a lot of listens to really get into it. It's like that sort of scotch that, like, the expensive scotch that you don't know why it's good until you've had all the others along the way.
Right,
And
right.
do you think there is a place for Doom in the mainstream? It's like, now that we're talking about his legacy and he's not making any more new stuff.
I don't think so personally, because I feel like his entire kind of character was built on being anti-mainstream.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like some things are meant to appeal to the non-majority percentage, and I think trying to change it to something that appeals to that majority percentage is what ends up diluting it. You know what I mean? And like, though we would love as fans for the person that we love to be loved by everybody, you know what I mean? Like, that's just not what it was meant for.
Right.
So
sometimes careful what you wish for too.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. A lot of people, especially when I see it in the live show sector, a lot of people want these things, but they're not ready for them when they come. You know what I'm saying? Like, people want to go from, making songs in their bedroom to rocking 20,000 people on a stage. Right. You know what I mean? And it's like, you aren't even ready for that. Like, just because you make a good song in the bedroom, you don't even understand what your anxiety is going to do when those people are, you know what I'm saying, staring you in the face, like expecting something great from you. So it's just like I said, things are meant for different things. Like, Doom, I think, was meant for what he did,
Right.
The legend he was.
Well, you're talking about these people who want to skip steps. Those are the things you learn about yourself along the way, where you're like, if you skip all those steps, you are so unprepared, like to actually, like you said, the anxiety of being up there. It's like, I've sweat for performances that I didn't matter at all in front of 4 people.
It's like that. Yo, I can't even lie to you, man. It what really shaped my perspective on it is I saw a guy get on stage and cry. He couldn't even perform. Wow. You know what I'm saying? Like, and mind you, his homies are up there. It's a packed show. It was a Lil Uzi Vert show before Lil Uzi Vert was even like big like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So this guy gets on stage and gets to open for Lil Uzi Vert. His friends are going crazy, and it's his turn to go. And he gets up to the front of the stage, and man, just freezes, starts crying in front of the entire audience, man. Like 1,000 people, yo.
And that's probably not a very forgiving audience.
No, honestly, I'm not even gonna lie to you. It was the exact opposite.
Oh, it was so bad that people didn't even want to, like, the people.
No. Oh. Everyone was encouraging the fuck out of him.
Oh, that's awesome. Was
like, nah, man, you got this. Like, the whole crowd was cheering him on to try and, like, give him the confidence. You know what I'm saying? Because his homies were like, this my dude's first performance. You know what I'm saying? Wow. Yo, we sorry, blah blah blah. And they were like, nah, fuck that. It was so beautiful to see the encouragement, but I'm telling you, the anxiety had a grip on him. You know what I mean? Like, no amount of encouragement was going to be able to get him to remember what he needed to do in that moment. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I've seen it firsthand. I've seen people freeze up, thinking they were ready.
That does speak to, though, that you said about everybody having that really genuine, beautiful reaction, is that when something real happens and that real thing has emotion and someone's willing to show emotion, people, there's a lot of people willing to throw stones online. There are a lot of people who are willing to scream, "You suck," to an opening act. But when someone's actually has their soul on display like that, people do usually step up and do what they can to help, which is a beautiful thing. It's one of the things about hip hop that gets lost a lot, is the support and the love,
No doubt. And I think that is a lot of what a person like Doom found after, going through the tragedies he did. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like he wanted to be loved, and he wanted that passion in his life, but he couldn't do it, like you said, like with his own face and personality. You know what I mean? He needed to adopt another persona, and to even be able to digest the love, you know? To accept it, to feel like he was worth it. You know what I mean? So mainstream for Doom would probably look like what we're seeing right now, which is, the cartoon side, as far as, like,
Adult Swim.
Yes, exactly.
That's what I was actually. Well, I was going to try to bring it back to that. That's interesting. That Adult Swim to me is. I'm a big fan of that type of stuff, and it's funny to me that they've managed to on this. I guess it doesn't matter that much, but more so years ago, they managed to have one channel that went from being essentially like SpongeBob to a few hours later being like something absolutely not for kids, and that seems like something. It's almost like putting the cigarettes next to the candy. It's like, and it's something you can't believe they'd allow you to do it, but they got away with it. And him being the sort of the person, like I have this very vivid memory. I don't know if you've never seen this, you got to Google it. But there was one year on Adult Swim around 2006 where they had him record a bunch of like bumpers around Christmas.
Oh,
where,
I've
like,
seen him. Oh yeah, he was
man.
like drunk as shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember leaving a Christmas party with my parents or some family stuff to go home earlier and smoking a joint on the way home. And that was on. And I was just like, it's Christmas. We got Doom. It's just, I still watch those every year. It's amazing.
I gotta watch those every year, man, because it's almost like as fans, we don't get too much of content for him. You know
Especially
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, so it's nice to see his personality in human form, like not cartoon form. You know what I mean? Just that was some funny shit.
It's wild. There isn't even a whole lot of footage of him because I was trying to watch like stuff online. You keep seeing that footage of him in the Michael Vick jersey, and that you see a lot of that. And there's a couple others, but there isn't. Did you ever see him
my favorite is that live. There's a live concert that he did.
Oh, the Planet X one, maybe? Is that what it's called?
Well, there's the Planet X one that was done as a recording, which is no longer available on streaming services.
Oh, I have that CD somewhere. That's a good. I like that, but
that is an amazing live performance CD. But it's like a YouTube video of him. It's like one of the best live performance videos of him that exists. You know what I'm saying? In my opinion, I've watched it countless times. It's where I get a lot of my own personal mannerisms and shit like that from, as far as the live performance shit. You know what I'm saying? Because the way he controls the crowd in that particular moment was wild. Yeah, for sure. I got to figure out exactly what it's called. I want to say it would be impossible for me to say what it was, but I would have to see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm sure if you dig it up, send it to me. Talk about how the syllable stuff, and like you and the performing. What are some like things that you pulled from him?
Genuinely, especially based on that video, breath control. Like when I heard that video, he sounded so much like the tracks. Like when Hey came on, Hey sounded like Hey, you feel me? Like the beat slap. He really came in and he delivered every bar. There was no slacking. And he's a pretty big dude, you know?
Right. Isn't it a physical performance? It takes more physical performance than you would think to rap, especially for half hour and 400.
Of course, you know what I mean. Let alone at a highly lyrical level. You know what I'm saying? Where you're trying to weave in and out of these pockets while also moving.
Right.
You know,
and also not yelling too loud because you're talking into something that's already making you louder. There's so many things you're concentrating on at the same time, and not falling off the stage, which a lot.
That's the most important one, is the not falling off the stage part, because you get really lost in that shit. But yeah, from him, the breath control, man. And I've always compared everyone I've seen after that to him. You know what I'm saying? So one of my favorites would be like Black Thought from The Roots. When you see Black Thought perform, dude, it's like a fucking onslaught. He could rap for 2 hours straight, you know?
I have watched that Funk Flex freestyle. Like that thing has like 80 million views, and I swear like 2 million are mine. I've never watched it only once. Like I've done an hour workout that was just me listening to that 6 times, numerous times.
Sure, because it's just incredible to hear someone even be able to do that. You know what I mean? Like, so just breath control, man. That's one of the main things I took. And honestly, simplicity and wardrobe. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He was always just a very simple t-shirt, jeans, sneakers. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? It almost like made the focus more about what he was delivering. You know what I'm saying? So, you know,
it's
just a little.
I was watching, I think it was LA Story, some old movie from like the 90s, and someone goes, before you go out, you have to turn around and turn back in the mirror, and the first thing you see, you have to take off. Because everybody has one or two things that are a little extra. And it's like I actually
Yeah,
do that sometimes and it does work. And like that's sort of, I mean, for him, it's like the everything besides the mask is just something else that distracts from the mask. And the
that's a
mask
fact.
is so perfect, you know.
Right. And honestly, I feel like it's not even maybe because we've gotten used to it. It was never obtrusive to me. You know what I'm saying? Like it
Right.
was never something I felt like was like what the fuck is this? Like why is this? You know, it was never too big, too clunky. Like it was
Yeah.
done in such a dope way that I feel like you can't even recreate that. Like
Right.
you know what I'm saying? We're not gonna see another masked rapper.
Not only did he choose all these things that would really reduce it, but he also, like, the fact he was born in a country that he had no memory of and he got sent back there with no ability to come back is just so it's just so part of his image. It's like it's all ties in together, and just
Yeah,
choosing that
and
one
that's
part
it's
of it is,
crazy that
you
that
know,
happened to him like
it's
that. You
crazy.
know what
It's
I
just
mean? It's like,
nuts.
what the fuck? You
And every
know?
time I read that story, it's nuttier because I thought he lived there until he was like 10 or something, and then he moved. But like he was like barely ever there.
Right, right. That's what
His
I knew
parents
of
weren't
was
British, I think.
that he was barely ever there and that they immigrated basically to New York. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? Is what I got. You know what I'm saying? And then obviously he did grade school, you know what I'm saying, regular high school and through New York. And then immediately got into the rap shit as a teenager with his brother. You know what I'm
yeah, it
saying?
was Sub Rock. Yeah,
Yep,
and
yep.
I had never really heard the true, like, I still didn't really know that I landed on the truth, but the details around Sub Rock, his brother's passing, was something strange. I mean, we got hit by a car, but I there was some question of whether they were playing in traffic. It was like everything Doom
Okay, see,
related.
so is that if I try not to Mandela affect myself, right?
Yeah.
What is the story behind Peanut Butter Wolf's brother?
Oh, no, Charisma.
Yeah,
Oh, that's a good.
you feel me?
I don't know if that was his. Was that his brother? I
No,
know
it
who you're
wasn't
talking
his
about though.
brother. It
Charisma.
wasn't his brother. That was
Right.
his
The red
rap.
light, the red light, green light song I love so
Yes,
much.
yes. So
Yeah.
he also got hit by a car
Oh, did
in a
he?
traffic situation.
Oh man,
And
that's
him and MF Doom, Peanut Butter Wolf and MF
yeah,
Doom
so tied
bonded over
together.
that.
Wow, I didn't even think about that. That's wild.
There's a Stones Throw documentary that goes into in depth about the Peanut Butter Wolf charisma relationship and how he died.
I got to dig that out. I might even have that somewhere because I would buy everything Stones Throw at that time. It was like,
Yes, I mean that's my number one label, bro. Like
oh God, yeah. And the way that they put out things that aren't rap but are still like, I mean, there's the Mad Libs, but there's also that I need a dollar is
yeah,
what I
yeah,
Aloe Black. I mean, that song is like, it's just, it's
crazy. No one even thinks about Aloe Black or a Metaphor or you know what I'm saying, or you know what I'm saying, all of these people that represent Stones Throw for a long time. You know, I've
yeah.
always been a Stones Throw fan, man.
It's wild. Like I'm thinking, looking back at me, like at the mad villainy out there, which you got to talk about that. So
Right,
when
right,
that record came out, I was at a point of fandom where I was already really in deep with Doom. And to me, it wasn't that it was, I mean, I didn't I knew it was going to be dope because I knew what was involved, but it never occurred to me that other people may find it really dope. And I think it got named like Pitchfork Album of the Year, which really would land you on it land that would land you in front of like all of like the white kids who go to Coachella. It's like that
right,
gives you that audience to some degree. And I'm like, wow. And some of those people that I knew were friends, like the guy sending me work was like, do you know this guy? I'm like, how do you know this guy? And like, so for that record, for it to be a record where there's really no choruses, and there's something occurred to me today is that you could be Bruce fucking Springsteen and you're not going to get away with releasing an album with no hooks and
right.
have like, or anybody like that. Like it's, I don't know, thoughts on that record. Cause for me, it's just wild. And I listened to the whole thing
Yeah.
again today and it sounds just as fresh as I ever did.
I mean, it's timeless, obviously. You know what I'm saying. And then for me personally, it is definitely my number one album of all time. You know what I'm saying? Like, period. You know what I
Top
mean?
five for me for sure.
You feel me? Like I love music. You know what I mean? Like, and this is a multi-genre situation. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So maybe like a "Are You Experienced" by Jimi Hendrix might be in my top five as well. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So just because of impact and whatnot at the time, but that's number one for me. Mad Villainy, number one. You feel me?
Yeah.
Because even my initial style, rap wise, of not needing hooks,
Yeah.
you feel me, was because of Doom. You know what I mean? Like it was 100% because he I don't know what it was about not like the sampling, which was also a Madlib thing. That's also a Madlib thing. I was a fan of Madlib and Doom before they made that album.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
So you knew what you at least knew something exciting was coming.
Right. I knew, like when I heard them together, it just made so much sense because of the way they use sampling together. You know what I'm saying? So you don't need choruses when you can tell a story or have these breaks in the beats. You know what I'm saying? And then when you coming from from Food, right?
Yeah.
Which already gave you a cinematic run.
Yep.
Like it plays like a movie.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So take that and then you add these menacing, like chilling beat samples. Like I'm talking just the most obscure musical instrument sounds.
Yeah.
You know, fucking
the accordion. Like he starts off with accordion. It's like,
and it's called accordion, you know?
Yeah. And I've never heard an accordion like any other rap song.
I've never heard an accordion in a rap song since then. Maybe a Weird Al Yankovic.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I know. I think Judy Tenuta's making it. But and it's like, you know, the thing is, like, there's a lot of people now who there's probably people who think about doing it, but no, they wouldn't because he did it. I think he may own the accordion now for hip hop in general.
I feel like now I want to do it.
I know. And it's funny is I have actually done some songs that kind of have a similar sound because I just dig it, but it's not full accordion. But I don't know, man. Maybe we got to do a collab on an accordion.
Right. Nah, straight up, man. An accordion too.
Yeah, I know.
Because I think it's that album in particular has done just a lot for me in all types of ways. You know what I mean? We all have those albums that we're emotionally attached to, you know what I'm saying? Because of the time in which the album or how many times in your life the album came into play, because it's eras for me. It was when it first came out, and then I appreciated it on another level later on in life. You know what I'm saying? So it really just depends, man. And then I appreciated it even more once I started getting into psychedelics even heavier. You know what I'm saying? Listening to that on shrooms.
Yeah, mushrooms were involved in the making of that too. I was watching some stuff about that. Yeah.
I took mushrooms and listened to it because of that almost which I think that was the same. I want to feel like that was like almost the same documentary that I'm talking about. That was the Stones Throw documentary.
It is because there's a lot of documentaries on YouTube that cut up these few DVDs into things with the footage, and that is that DVD. And now that reminds me, I have that somewhere, but I just saw that clip like on something else
because they were talking about the LA crib and how Doom would write on the roof, and
that was the doing bong hits on the roof. Is like that's literally it. Yeah, it was
a real fucking line, you know, as far as like it was real life, and that's another thing. Once again, I just always took from him. Like I never told no lies in my raps, no exaggerations, no lies. I always made it something where somebody went back and fact checked my shit. You know what I'm saying? Like it all adds up, like with life occurrences, facts, everything. And I think if you aren't living enough life, drawing enough inspiration to even make numerous albums is going to be difficult. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not even really, you don't have anything to put into the albums. That's why a lot of our greats get older and their albums don't even sound the same because they aren't even, you know what I'm saying? What's your life at this point? You're working out, you got a fucking chef making all your food.
Yeah.
Like
it's like Aerosmith's not making the best records of their career. It's just like it becomes a job that you check in and out. And it's like, and even you look at someone like Eminem, who I think the guy, it's almost like he's a guy who's been doing the rap equivalent of push-ups for the past like 20 years. And now he can do push-ups so well, but I think he's sort of trying to find the soul back in his music again. And it's just like he's right on point, but it's almost like his life is going too well, you know?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think in that sense, he needs to connect with the youth more. I think that's the only thing that he doesn't do that rappers like a Lil Wayne, rappers like a Drake, you know what I'm saying? Like more industry type of rappers, which Eminem is an industry rapper. He tries, you know what I'm saying? He can say what he wants, but he is a global fucking powerhouse. He has
to connect, star, you know.
Yeah, he has to connect with the youth. So if he's not doing songs with like an NF or a Token, you know what I'm saying? Then
Token, oh man.
Right.
Local reference, man. He's from around my way.
Yeah, you get what I'm saying though?
Yeah.
You know me, I'm a hip hopologist, man. You know what I'm saying? So if he's not doing those types of collabs, then he's not really exercising his position like he should and getting that, you know what I'm saying, that reinvigorated feeling. Like, you need to be around people who are going to push your pen. You know, like no one even wants to, like, you're not even really doing collabs like that.
Right. Everyone's like a big deal. And the thing about his collabs too is he has no problem hopping on a song with someone else and dropping like a 96 bar verse.
That's hilarious too, right?
And you're just like, okay, well, all of Slaughterhouse just went and the song is half over and now Eminem's gonna start. And like you're like, there's something about that where it's like, where does that come from? Like I've heard him do that a few times, and I just wonder what the other guys think and where that urge comes from.
I think it comes from just the fact that he's not a rapper that you can just give 16 bars is not enough. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's going to fly by if a nigga like Eminem is rapping. You know what I'm saying? Because he's gonna hit you with I heard a battle rapper talking about this recently. Say we have the same 2 minutes to rap around, right? Yeah. I might have a pace of 450 words per 2 minutes.
Oh, right, yeah.
He's going to have a pace of at least twice as much, 900 words every 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So
math of it, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like giving it 16 bars is nothing for a guy like Eminem. And if you're blessed enough to get an Eminem feature, you know it's going to blow up if you just let him do his thing.
Right. All your goal is not to get slaughtered. Your goal is to, like,
which is, I mean, that only few have accomplished that.
Right.
You know, and most of those people got signed by him.
Yeah, I know, huh? It is funny though when you see there was a leak of that Crack the Bottle song a while ago where he sings all the verses.
Yes.
And you're like, oh yeah, he wrote that whole song. There's every once in a while, I hear 50 Cent song where he says something, especially when he's on Eminem collab, where he says a wording that I'm like, yeah, I know Eminem wrote that.
Yeah.
And I don't blame him
because I felt that way about everything really smart guy. Him and Dre ever touched. Him and Dr. Dre.
Right. Yeah.
You're like, come on, Dre. You know,
which gets lost in it too, because it's like it's funny. Some people really get a lot of crap about using ghostwriters, but it's like, you know, there were rumors that MF Grimm wrote a lot of the Chronic. I don't know if those are true or not, but that was the rumor for a long time.
I believe that, honestly.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, Dre's parts, because you did have some amazing fucking rappers on that shit, like Hitman. You know what I'm saying? Like Hitman.
Well, I was talking about the first Chronic. Yeah, that allegedly MF Grimm did that one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Hitman. Whatever happened to Hitman though?
Right?
Yeah.
He's fucking ill. Where's his albums? Does he not have no solo work?
I don't know.
Dre
has so much unreleased
Spotify, bro. Hitman doesn't even have a Spotify.
That's crazy.
Insane.
Every once in a while, I'll be listening, because now there are a lot more rappers out there doing podcasts, and it's like they're actually in the podcast setting. People are a lot more comes out than in different interviews, and you keep hearing about these songs that have never been released. I listened to the Paul Rosenberg podcast he did with all these people around Eminem that just came out, and he's interviewing Denon Porter. I can never say his name right, Mr. Porter, and he's like, I got a track with Dre and Snoop from 20 years ago during the Chronic 2001 sessions. That's amazing, and I haven't heard it in like forever. It's like he's like, I don't even know where it is. He's like, I'm like, let's somebody break into that house.
I mean, but that's the thing, is like that's super, super common.
Yeah,
it's super common. I was talking to somebody about that recently on a positive spin of that same situation, that like a lot of collabs are not for the public. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of collabs are more bureaucracy or like social collabs.
Yes, it's almost like social currency to some degree.
Yes, exactly. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's not even something where like the public may get, you know, 30% of music recording.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You feel me? So a lot of stuff is gonna
go. Never thought of it that way.
You don't really find out until the interviews years later. You know, like,
or until someone dies and someone else wants to make a buck.
Michael Jackson.
Yeah, there's always stuff like that. We're just like, oh, you know, there's always something like Nori's, like the Super Thug beat was originally from Michael Jackson. I'm like, what?
Right, yeah, it's like, okay, you know what I mean?
And then you follow back the trails, and like that sounds like it's true. Like
yes, I mean, I feel like a lot of the things are so random and like inconsequential. Like, why would you lie? You
Right,
know
right,
what I
right.
mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just like no one cares. This is just a little tidbit. It's not
No,
even meant to be.
I will say I did see an interview where Hulk Hogan claimed that he was almost the basis for Metallica. And Metallica was like, nah, that did not
Nah,
happen.
nah.
And I was like, so there's always someone out there willing to sell you something.
Right.
But,
It depends on how it's supposed to make them look. That
right,
obviously was supposed to make a Hulk Hogan look
right,
weak.
right.
You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
I know.
That's hilarious. Hulk
Yeah.
Hogan.
But yeah, so all right, so one thing about the villain aspect of Doom, I never saw him in concert. There was definitely times where he was not showing up. I had this something else here that my brother used to work at the El Rey Theater in Los Angeles years ago, and Doom was there, or I don't know if it was definitely him because I wasn't there, but they had these masks they were giving out that were like original paper Doom masks, and they're all numbered, and this one is actually 1 of 100, and this is probably
That's
worth
crazy.
nothing, but I'm surprised it stayed in such good shape over the years, so I just framed it. But yeah, there was that time where Doom would.
Is it a painting?
No, it's like a paper, like it's like a paper mask, almost like something you cut out from
Ah,
the back, but it has the string and then it's like numbered and has a date and stuff on the
ooh,
back.
that's fire.
Yeah, so I was always appreciated this, but did you he never, I don't even know if that was him at that show or not. I don't know if my brother even would have known the difference at that point because he wasn't as into it as me. But that stuff for me never bothered me as much as it did other people. And I think if I were to go to a show and it wasn't him, I don't know that I would have been as bothered, but I can see why a lot of people would have. So has the villainy of Doom has it been something that you sort of accept as part of the road of being a fan of his, or is it something that's ever come back to bite you and kind of get it, like, annoy you in some way?
Um, I honestly never even considered seeing him a possibility. So it was never something that was even like I don't care. You know what I mean? I could care less if he scammed a bunch of white kids. You know what I'm saying? I could really care less because to me, the part that those kids can't connect with is the villain. Like they cannot connect with the thug side of Doom. They can't connect with the street side of Doom. You know what I'm saying? A lot of those bars and those songs that are more about, you know what I'm saying, his street savvy, you know what I'm saying, his drug affiliations, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I once met Mr. Fantastic in an arms
Arms
deal.
deal. Yeah.
Come on, you know what I'm saying? Like people don't, that's not the part that they connect with. Right. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I could care less about that.
That's a good, that's a good point.
That sounds like exactly what I was doing, you know, back in the day, you know,
yeah,
to some of these college kids. So
it's funny too, because I mean, I'm closer to the college kid aspect of it. For me, I appreciate the performance artist of it, where I'm just like the balls of him, and that wouldn't stop me from buying, you know, it wouldn't stop me from buying his next album or anything like that. And it's like,
no way. I mean, if anything, I'm gonna keep buying the ticket to the show, hoping that one of these motherfuckers he shows up.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know? Like it's not like his tickets are that expensive. You know what I'm saying? No. Like you're talking $25, $30 maybe for a Doom ticket. Like you'll be.
He wasn't doing that many shows, and it was like because I probably saw Atmosphere 10 times back then. I saw Ideas and Abilities and all those like Aesop Rock, but like he just
the
wasn't.
Minnesota bunch.
Yeah, yes, the Rhymesayers crew. Like he's just in like, between them and Stone Throw and Def Jock, so I'd see everybody that came through.
Did you see Brother Ali a lot?
A lot, yes. I saw him many times.
I fuck with Brother Ali real heavy. So
he's awesome. Yeah. I remember seeing him on the Scribble Jam tapes for the first time, him battling people like Mac Lethal and stuff like that.
So you just said Scribble Jam, right?
Yeah.
The performance video that I'm talking about is 2003 live Scribble Jam performance.
Oh, okay. Yes, I know the video. Yes.
Yeah, that's the one, man. Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
That Scribble Jam shit was something else that really that really showed me what was possible. Like I had a friend, one of my best friends growing up was really into skiing, and like he was like the sort of dangerous type of skier. And I wouldn't do that shit. But like, and I was really into hip hop, and we both realized the same thing, that right around the time that YouTube came out, like everybody, like the people didn't think you could do the ski trick, and then someone saw it on YouTube, then everybody could do it. And there was that same thing with rap where like everybody, once they like, because I sort of like Big L sort of begat that style to Eminem, and Eminem kicked that style up, but then once it hit those battle rap scenes, like everybody could do it then, you know.
For For
and
sure.
that not everybody could do it, but everybody knew what it was and could break it apart and hit pause and go, what is he saying and stuff. And that to me was sort of the end of the live battles, because when I first started, I would do the battles. You have to make it up off the top of your head. And there was a couple of times I choked, and there was a couple of times that I won. Right. But like, you did understand very much that it was almost never a fair fight, because of who was in the crowd, because you could come up with lines ahead of time that you kind of hide, and the more well-known you were, the bigger target there was on you.
Right.
So that, to me, those Scribble Jam, the battles back then were sort of the end of that era where this is as good as it's going to get, because nobody like these guys, like any rapper who could be this good is going to put their energy towards writing it now. So this is the end of that era of being really good.
That's a fact, though, because the written era of battles began at that point.
Right. Is we weren't all agreed upon it yet. Like, it was like still over beats and still pretending it was all,
For sure.
But the thing is, it made when someone really nailed it, it was huge. But the problem was, you could watch a whole night's of battles and only hear 5 dope lines or 2 dope lines. Right. And it's like, you'd rather go to, like, it's sort of like how back in the day you'd have, like, on Seinfeld, there'd be like 1 Kramer, but now there's like 4 Kramers in every show. It's like, that's what battle rap is like, is you want every time there's got to be Kramer walking in the door, So talking about Doom, one thing I wanted to bring up to mention before is that, with Doom, he was always that artist that, and this might be sort of the villain part of me, was that he was always able to get money out of me even when I didn't have it. So like, as like sort of where the villain thing hit with me is that even if I didn't have the money, and because I was a broke ass person for a lot of like my early 20s and mid 20s and 30s, and it was just like, I always found that cash and I was like, God damn, that guy's getting me. And one other thing today I noticed, and I had to look this up, is I was listening to the Food album, and the label is mislabeled. Like, it says that One Beer is the first song on side 2 and it's really the last song on side 1, and I'm just like, there's a little bit of me, I'm like, they just do that to be a bit of a dick? Or is that like a real mistake, or is it just like, who cares,
Right. Well, I mean, you got a very like complicated situation when it comes to Doom in that regard. You know what I'm saying? Like, he has a lot of like what I would call older cuts. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that still like resonate to this day. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have a lot of themes and things like that. You know what I'm saying? That like, you're not even going to really understand, you know what I'm saying, until later on. I go back and I still, catch stuff that I didn't really, you know what I'm saying? Like, One Beer, even sample-wise, even sample-wise, I feel like that's a sample I hear sometimes and I'm like, this has to be Doom, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's like, fuck, it's not, you know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people have sampled that now.
Once he takes the sample, it's his. It's like, he's one of those people where it's like, it's tough to flip it again,
It's impossible to flip it again. I mean, like I said, Wiz Khalifa tried, but all you hear is the Doom. I feel like Odd Future, I want to say Earl Sweatshirt tried on a track that kind of comes to mind, but like, even that was not, it's not Doom. You know?
Yeah. Are you into those dudes? Like, I like the Odd Future stuff that I've heard. The most recent Tyler album is amazing, but I bought it just based upon the fact that I heard it was particularly amazing. And I was like, okay, so now I'm deciding. I listened to the Goblin album, then I skipped everything in between, and now I heard this, and I'm deciding what I go back to listen to, because I know now he's incredible, but I just I wasn't on from the beginning. I liked it, but I wasn't set.
It's like because what was the first album?
I think it was Goblin.
Yes, Goblin. Goblin was cool. It had a very, very dope impact. I love the minimalistic style of the beats and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I love the kind of like violent, nonsensical rhymes. You know what I'm saying? But I really hate the like personality type that music birthed.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, I really hate like that, like super overly like self-deprecative, like because it's like it started to mix with the 3 6 Mafia sound.
Right. Especially when it becomes the copy of the copy, where it's like the artist isn't as bad, but the people who following them, pretending to be them, people pretend to be them, are like,
For sure, which is why he evolved. His sound obviously evolved from that album to the most recent album. What I really enjoy about his music is, from what we were talking about earlier, he doesn't allow success or money to dilute his creative process. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's still drawing from so many random sources of inspiration. Right. He's still living life. You know what I mean?
That's very Doom-like too. Yes. It's like, you know, because his albums, one thing when he mentioned before about how he sounded the same on his album as he did in concert. Part of me wonders, is that because he took such a lo-fi approach to recording, where it's like you're not like, and you got to hit all the beats, but like when you're not adding all this stuff to your voice, you're not pretending to be somebody else. It's easier to show up as yourself, you know.
That is 100% what it is.
Yeah,
that's like that. Another thing that I took from his live performances, because with my recording process, I'm extremely minimalistic on my effects, my doubles, my ad libs, you know what I'm saying? Because when I do a live show, like, I sound how I sound on the song, you know what I'm saying?
A lot of people don't think about that.
Enjoy the clarity of my live performance, you feel me? Like, it's just, you can hear me, I'm clear, you know what I'm saying? Like, everything is distinguishable because my recording process is so simple. I don't feel like I need to manipulate my voice live to try and sound like what my track sounds like. Right. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like, you know, with the birth of auto-tune, a guy just asked me, you know, for at a showcase, he was like, "Hey man, is there auto-tune on this mic?" I'm like, "I don't think you know how auto-tune works, bro, because what are you talking about? No, it's not on the mic. You think it's a button I press and it'll just make you sound good?"
Yeah, you want the Mariah Carey button, you want the Frank Sinatra button, you want the Buddy Guy. It's just like,
straight up, you want the T-Pain?
Yeah. We got you. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. You don't have any talent. It's fine.
Yeah, straight up. You know what I'm saying? So he was like struggling his whole performance. You know what I'm saying? Because he's like, "Man, it don't sound right." I'm like, "No,
that's on you."
You know, but because if you give a person like a Usher or a Chris Brown the mic, they gonna sing and they gonna sound fucking good, you know?
Right. That's where it's like, it's the difference between like you can say what you want about Mariah Carey, but you can't sing like Mariah Carey. It's just
you can't, you know, you have to have a good, what I call a clean stem. If you're not good at if you don't make a clean stem, then whatever you're building on top of that is just not going to be, it's not going to be good, you know?
Yeah.
MF Doom was the master of clean stems. Like, if you listen to, I'm sure you listen to his acapellas.
Yes.
Yeah, just fucking crispy, man. You know what I'm saying? The enunciation, even in his slurred speech.
Right. Because what I used to do back in the day when I was starting is I would record the whole verse and then I'd record the whole verse over it. Then I'd mix those two together and just try to clip out the parts that didn't make sense, that didn't line up. And it was just sounding like garbage. It was just like,
that's hilarious.
Yeah, it's horrible. And then they put dubs on top of it, you know? And it's funny, like when I, with Elza, I did a song with him on the album, and like, so my producer was like, "Hey, I think he sent you the wrong file for the dubs, because he sent like two vocal files and one was empty and one was out." And I was like, "Oh, I guess it's probably supposed to be the dubs." So I go back to him like, "Hey, I don't know what the dubs are." He's like, "Yeah, I don't do dubs." He's just like, "All right, man, I'm sorry." I was like, "Sounds amazing," but my producer,
right. He's like, "Dubs? What the fuck you talking about?"
And so I think my producer might put some artificial dubs in or something to satisfy it, but like, it's it sounds fucking amazing. So I don't know.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Elzai is another person who I know draws from that same Doom inspiration, though, when it comes to that syllable matching style. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know why Elza isn't talked about like as one of the best MCs out there. Like, I feel like there may be some logical explanation that I just don't like. Did he?
Well, the logical explanation you described.
Did he kick Jimmy Iovine in the nuts or something? Like, I don't know what is happening. Like, he's amazing.
He's very antisocial, man. He's a huge introvert.
Oh yeah, it does it. Yeah.
I've met him a number of times. I've been to, you know what I'm saying, numerous shows of his. He came and did a show in New Orleans. Me and him have a mutual friend, you know what I'm saying? Who introduced us, and that's how I was able to meet him several times. She's a good writer and somebody that I'll send you their information.
Okay.
Well, you might want to reach out as far as like getting some type of writing for your album when it's time for your album.
Oh, word.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like a staff writer.
Do for a podcast or something.
Yes, because she knows Royce, she knows Elzai, she knows all of those folks. You know what I'm saying? She has really good relationships with Mega Ran, all all types of rappers. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's funny. That's why I wear a lot of Detroit hats, because like I'm from Boston. Like I don't want to. I'm gonna make enemies saying this, but like I'm not a big sports fan, and a lot of it is because the energy at some of our Boston sports events are not like. I don't like when I hear in the national news that the Celtics are the most racist team in the history of like sports, like, or the organization. I'm just like, you know what? So I try to buy hats from places where I like their music.
For sure. And I'm right there with you. I can't wear just any city's hat. Yeah. I'm very specific about what city's hat I'm wearing, you know what I'm saying? Because I can't just be out here repping any city. Yeah. Definitely not no Boston.
No, I don't blame you, man. And like, it's funny. Like when I would go to sporting events in other parts of the country, and I'm actually thinking about maybe coming down to San Antonio, go to the WWE Royal Rumble in January. I always find how much different the fans are in other parts of the country, and it's like the environment and energy is so much different. And that's something that if you never leave your hometown, you never really pick up on, because people they really, when people gather in different parts of the country, they do bring different energies.
Groupthink. You start to realize how crazy groupthink is in a regional way. You know what I'm saying? Like you get real different vibes from different crowds in different cities. You know what I'm saying? I've been to sporting events all over the fucking country. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll tell you one of the most intense sporting cultures, Central Pennsylvania football, Penn State.
Really?
Yeah, man.
The guy ignored the molestation of children for 20 years. So they take sports pretty seriously there.
But, you know what I mean? Like they're starting them out from a young age.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So and they're willing to turn their back
out there because that guy was a god out there. That's how he got away with that shit. You know what I'm saying? Because they see their sports like that. You know what I mean? It's a cult-like nature. You know? It was crazy, man. And not to mention, I dated a lady whose brother played on the team.
Oh, really?
Man, the stories he would tell and stuff, man. Yeah, the sports culture in Pennsylvania is wild.
That is nuts. So what is
Eagles fans suck?
The what?
The Eagles fans.
Oh, dude, the Eagles fans. I always tell people whenever something crazy happens in Philadelphia, I'm like, these are the people who they threw snowballs at Santa Claus.
Straight up.
I think I remember seeing, and I'm not a big football fan, but I remember seeing at some point there was some coach of an opposing team who had served in the military and seen combat, and he was in afterwards, after being shelled by all like the fans with like ice balls and stuff. He was like, I've never seen anything like it before. And like all the ECW wrestling stuff, that was all Philly. It's just like, I don't know, man. Philly's wild. I gotta go down there and check it out.
I feel like when I think about it, MF Doom never had any sports references.
No, he didn't. He does mention Kurt Angle on Mad Villainy, which always makes me pop. Yeah. But that's really about it.
Yeah, I've never heard him even like talk about. Obviously, it wasn't something that was in his life as a kid.
No,
you know,
I can relate to swear. You know,
right.
You know,
that's crazy.
I wanted to ask you about that aspect of it, the comic book aspect. Like, did the connection between Doctor Doom, was that ever like something that meant anything? Did that ever enhance the enjoyment or take away from it, or was it just there?
Oh, I mean, it was definitely something that I always enjoyed. You know what I'm saying? My dad, like, though he wasn't really like in my life like that, you know what I mean? He did leave me thousands of comic books.
Oh,
you know
nice.
What I'm saying? Like, I'm talking like crates and crates of comic books, all in sleeves. You know what I'm saying? Like no Lucy's, all in plastic sleeves, every single one of them. So I would spend like hours at a time in my grandma's kind of like attic area, which wasn't really an attic because it was like a connected stairwell to the house, but it was half of an upstairs. If you've ever seen a Southern house like that.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So I would spend a lot of time up there kind of just like thumbing through every single comic book. You know what I mean? Like I'm going through some of my favorites at the time were special edition Spawns. I love the Spider-Man 2099s.
Oh, those are great.
Yeah, like I thought that whole series was just amazing. That was like my favorite shit at the time. You know what I mean? The futuristic Marvel and DC adaptations. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there was Doom 2099 too. That was amazing.
I never saw that one.
I have that whole collection. There was like 50 issues. I had a bunch of them because they were sort of cheap. It was a time where like the comics, they made so many of them that like those didn't have a ton of value, but I was able to find them all for like, I think like 50 cents each over the years. It's a really cool run. It's just
That's crazy. See, and honestly, I never myself personally, I've never bought a comic book. You know what I'm saying? I had so many that I would actually sell them at school out of my desk.
Yeah, that's not, and that's the better way to go. If you can read comics and make money off of it.
I remember getting in trouble because some of them had boobies in them.
Yeah.
And mind you, I didn't know. It's not like I sold them, you know what I'm saying, for the boobies, but some of them were ones that I just wasn't interested in. I would just be like, nah, man, you could have these fucking like Superman joints.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But I did enjoy the Supermans when he was fighting I want to say it was like some dude that was made of stone out of rock.
Doomsday.
Yeah, Doomsday. Yeah.
That was the death of Spider-Man. The death of Superman. That was the event that pretty much killed the comic book industry.
Really? Okay.
Because what happened was so they had essentially in the early 90s, there was a whole thing with sports cars in the late 80s, and I have tons of sports cars that are worthless. But like they convinced everybody these things are going to be worth a lot of money. They diluted the market to the point that it was worth nothing. And then they went on to do the same thing with comic books. And the way they would do it is by continually trying to make people believe that like this comic was going to be like when everyone's like Superman's going to die, they made people believe he was never going to come back. And then there were people lined out outside the stores, like thinking that they were going to put their kids through college by buying these comics. And they just made millions. And it's like, wouldn't you think that, okay, well, you're here, there's a television broadcast, you're 100th in line. Are you all going to be multi-billionaires? Like, you know.
Right. But that's the thing though, once again, groupthink is this hive effect, you know what I'm saying? Like when certain amount of people get interested in something, the fear of missing out strikes into people and they're like, I can't miss this opportunity. It's genius. It's my time to be rich. Right. We saw it with crypto. We saw it with NFTs. You know what I'm saying? Like it's an age-old story in the world and in America, obviously specifically.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Yeah, it's and then so with comics, and it's like that's the thing with anything. You can kind of like they say you can shear a sheep numerous times. You can only whatever want, and it's like once you've cut someone so deeply, they lost tons of comic fans once they realized they've been had. You know, and then they never came back either. You know?
I loved that collection, and Doom was a favorite character of mine. You know what I'm saying? Before I ever knew who MF Doom was, obviously, you know what I'm saying? So for me to see him don that representation, once again, Operation Doomsday, which I was listening to, it's tough because that's my favorite Doom album, even though Mad Villainy is my favorite album of all time.
Yeah.
You know
it's funny. I said something similar to someone where I'm like, "Waiting Room is my favorite is one of my top 5 favorite songs. It's by Fugazi, but it's not my favorite Fugazi song. And there's no other Fugazi song in my top 5 songs. And I don't know how that makes sense, but it's the same.
Right. But it's the thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
for sure. I can't get away from it. You know what I'm saying? I can't get away from herbs and spices. Before we do, end up concluding this, I would be remiss if I didn't at least at one, I have to talk about special herbs and spices.
I mean, it's funny. I got the there's something I picked up on the
when they released the box set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I bought like 3 of these when they came out because I was convinced they're going to be worth something. And then I gave like 2 of them away. And now I think they do go for a few $100 on eBay.
You were right.
I was right, but it wasn't right enough.
But that's the thing about Doom fans. No one gave a fuck about that type of stuff at the time. You know what I'm saying? No one was like, oh, this is Doom memorabilia is going to be worth thousands. Right. Nah, it was like, this is some really cult ass shit. And I just want it for myself. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Yeah.
The Special Herbs and Spices box set.
Yeah.
I try and explain to people all the time how extensive his discography is. You know what I'm saying? People don't really understand. He has, dozens of albums. You know what I mean? So obviously I've done a whole mixtape over Herbs and Spices beats. Yep. You know what I'm saying? I did a whole mixtape over Herbs and Spices beats. There's some of the first beats I ever recorded to, some of the first beats I ever listen to is just beats, as far as listening to instrumentals.
Yep. Because they're full on their own. Like
Yeah.
they're like Jay Dilla, where and it's funny when you hear a song, you'll hear some beats that are on. There's some beats from I think Donuts by Jay Dilla that one of them appears on Food, and there's definitely some beats on the Special Herbs that have appeared on your Doom projects, Rapped Over, and other artist projects, and they're both equal. They both feel full. They both feel like full songs.
For sure. I find I'm not as much of a I don't know as much about Dilla. Would you say that theme wise? Because what stuck out about Herbs and Spices to me, because I'm also a chef, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Was how true to the theme he stayed.
Yeah.
He introduced me to certain spices and roots.
It's like, is he gonna run out of names or is he gonna run out of beats first? It's like,
it's incredible to think that I didn't know what lavender root was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when I found out what it was in the culinary sense, I was like, oh, I know this because of the beat. You know what I mean?
And that's where I think people don't give hip hop enough credit for educating people. And I think that there's there's time, there's been times in the history where messages have been passed through song in sort of to so other people didn't know what they were saying. And it's like, there's essentially that tradition exists today in hip hop where you'll hear something and go, I want to get this joke. I'm going to have to look it up to get it. And then you learn it and it enriches your experience. And I don't think that happens with a lot of other genres of music.
It doesn't. Well, not for me, really. You know what I'm saying? I think maybe an equivalent might be, I could say at a time I was extremely into say a Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Good luck Googling what they're saying because I don't even understand all that.
Exactly. The way his lyrics were, a lot of the time I was like, bro, I'm gonna need to look this up. Yeah. And he had a lot of West Coast references and just a lot of, West Coast stuff. And I didn't know anything about the
West Coast. If you weren't doing heroin in Los Angeles in 1994, you might not get a lot of that. But.
Exactly. And lo and behold, that's where I ended up doing heroin. No, I'm just kidding.
Speaking of which.
But LA is obviously a crazy place. And when you go to where the artists you like are from, you have a different connection with them.
It's very true. Yeah.
So listening to those beats, riding the subway, in New York and listening to those beats, you know what I'm saying? While, living in New York, I really you could hear the hustle and bustle in the beats.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you hear certain of the beats, you can hear the city in the music, you know what I'm saying? And he was really good at, Dilla was as well, encompassing Detroit and the poverty in his music, you know what I'm saying? The pain in his music. Doom, I feel was good at doing the same thing, Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that. I meant to ask you this before. Czarface, did you have any connection? So that they're an artist, 7L, Esoteric, and Inspector Deck. Esoteric's been on my radar for 20 plus years. He's from my area. I was seeing him in small shows, and I wouldn't say we're friends. I've been friendly with him over the years to the point that he usually knows who I am when I see him, and we did a song together. So for me, I was always so super excited that he's essentially the living legend, hometown hero for a lot of people around here.
For sure.
So for us, and then with the Wu-Tang Clan, that was one thing with Inspector Deck, and then with Doom, I was like, I literally would be talking to him at a comic convention about this stuff, and it felt like his mind was as blown about as his mind was. But did you even know who Czarface was before Doom was working with them?
I had no clue. I had no clue about any of that. And even up until right now, when you just explained it, I had no clue of his origin or if he was an old artist or a new artist, or I didn't know anything about him, honestly.
So what it is so it's 7L and Esoteric. 7L is an amazing producer who's worked mostly with Esoteric and a few other people in my area. They've been together for about 20 years, and they had a whole career before Czarface came along. And on their first album, they had Inspector Deck make an appearance. This is I was probably still in high school, late 90s. And then, because Esoteric's maybe 2 or 3 years older than me, white, sort of college dude from around here, very similar backgrounds. And he appeared with Inspector Deck back in the day. Then years later, 15 years later, right at kind of for 7L Esoteric kind of losing a little steam, he was like, what would people think if we did another song or mixtape with Inspector Deck? And everyone's like, of course. And then it just blew up. It blossomed into everything, and that's their full-time gig. And the Doom thing, I believe Esoteric might have performed on Doom's first show in New York as an opening act while wearing a Fantastic Four shirt. I believe that may have come up and so he has like those connections, and he's like, I can't speak for him, but he sort of was involved in that scene in like the 90s, and like he was in the late 90s going down to New York and stuff like that. And he also had a beef with Def Jux and Cage and Copyright, so he was in all that, and Bastair and all those dudes. Yeah. He sort of
who won that beef?
I think he won like 5-on-1. But you have to go back and listen to the records yourself. But it's I don't know. That was fun too. Def Jux had a DeLorean back in those days. They literally had a company DeLorean at Def Jux.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So for me, like that was always super special, that it was like, it was my hometown hero working with him. And it's funny, like, so Esoteric is known as being around here as like one of the nicest dudes in the world. And it's like, if someone has a bad word to say about him around here, it usually tells you more about that person than it does about Seamus, Esoteric. And like he's always been super accessible to people, and he's like, every time I've asked him like little bits of advice over the years and stuff like that, and he's always been super gracious. The one time he never responded was when I was like, oh, so I'd love to get a song with Doom, do you even know if he has representation or something like that? And that was the one time I got no answer. It's just so funny where you're just like, with Doom, it's like, if you're in that inner circle even a little bit, I don't blame you. Like, I probably wouldn't have, even if he gave me a number of somebody who never would have written me back, I don't blame him for not even doing that.
Right,
but it's
right,
like,
right.
with Doom, I keep seeing him pop up on songs with people that I'd never heard of. And even when I looked them up, they weren't big artists. And some of them might have been people he met in the UK. But I'm just like, how are these happening? Because I did try a few times to try to make it happen, and I just got nowhere.
There's no way. Yeah. I mean, I think at a certain point, it's a very organic situation where you just end up in the right situation. Right. You know what I mean? I've seen that happen for a couple artists at least, where it's like you hear about them like just magically getting this feature from someone because they knew someone who just happened to be in a studio with someone. Day. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's really, really random like that. MF Dooms, Andre 3000s, like you have these like these mystical creatures in the industry where it's like, you got a feature from who?
Yeah.
Like, how did you get that feature? Well, you were selected, you were found.
And there is something to that too about Doom, where it's like he put out a lot of stuff, but everything felt special, and it all felt like it had a purpose, and it was never just like he would sort of go years without putting anything out, and then he'd sort of dump a bunch of stuff out, and it was like
right.
But it all always felt special.
Yeah, I loved every bit of it. You know what I mean? Even the JJ Doom.
I love that album.
Yeah. Even JJ Doom had it. Man, it still to me has some amazing notes and points to it.
Yeah. That song Governor itself is just amazing, and the video for that's really cool. The low budget video, that's really cool.
I'm glad that he did a video for it. I don't give a fuck what budget it is.
I know. But it has the thing where it's like split screen a little bit, and I'm like, I don't know how. It's like you can tell that it was. I don't know how he did that, and especially if I try to think of the time he did it. It's like there might be an app right now in Adobe that could do that for you right now, but that took a little bit of thinking, and that was a creative idea when that went down. Like they did it.
Not to mention, I mean, I respect anyone who has done some type of collaborative project. You know what I'm saying, with Doom. You know what I mean, because same thing with the Ghostface. Where I became much, much, much more of a fan of Ghostface.
Yeah.
I was a fan, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he helped me get,
Yeah, I just became so much more of a fan once the Doom Starks shit came out.
It's funny. I wish I thought of this earlier. I have a magazine cover from Mass Appeal from it's got to be 15 years ago with them on the cover, and it's like Doom Starks coming soon, and like still waiting.
right.
Like we've got a few songs, but
when that shit comes on, I got to see Ghostface perform in DC for an Adult Swim event.
Oh, that's amazing.
It was crazy. He did some of that shit. And it was like, oh man, when is this coming out? Yo.
It's never.
Never. Yeah, never.
The next Mad Villainy album, I remember them in January 2021, which I remember only because I looked at it last night, was the last time they commented on it, and I think Peanut Butter Wolf said that the second Mad Villainy album was 85% done, and they had the blessing to release it. But there's been nothing said about it yet since, and it's been like a year and a half.
Yeah, it's probably just a bunch of bureaucracy. You know what I'm saying? You know, there's a lot of paperwork involved. There's a lot of stuff involved.
Samples and shit
but
like that.
But I guarantee you, we will hear it.
I hope so. Yeah,
we will hear it.
Yeah, you know, and there's got to be other stuff too. He's got to have a lot of stuff we haven't heard. Him, you know, but oh man, I'm starting to wind down because it's been a long day. But
yeah, sure. What time is it right now?
It's like 8:30 my time. But
okay. Oh yeah, true. Well, I appreciate you, man.
No problem, man.
I'll leave you on this note.
Yeah. Oh shit! When did you get that?
You know what I'm saying? I'll leave you right there. One of those real Doom fan.
Man, that is nasty. How long you had that for?
Maybe like 7 years, 8 years or something.
I'm working on a Doom tattoo idea. I got some tattoos the other day, and I'm doing like a band around my leg where I'm just having it totally just jam packed with shit. And I'm and I think the very front is gonna be the Danger Doom logo. Like,
okay, nice.
Have it on me, but like, yeah.
I mean, honestly, I want more. It's supposed to be part of a hip hop sleeve, so I definitely plan to get maybe like some type of halo and these types of things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, like around the mask now that, you know what I'm saying, things have happened. Yeah. So, yeah, I just wanted to leave you with that note, real Doom fans. You know,
but actually, before I go, let's talk a little bit more about what you're working on, just so people have a better idea. So, like, where can people find you? What are you? This will probably be released in December. I'm gonna start releasing these, like maybe like one a week. I'm doing like 10, then releasing them. Like, so where can people find you? What are some things you'll be working on the next few months and stuff like that?
They could find me in these streets. No, I'm just kidding. But nah, for real though, man, I'm really just focusing on expanding my live market reach. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm trying to do as many shows in different markets as possible. So 2023, I'm really trying to do a Northeast tour. A New England tour, because I got connections in Maryland, I got connections in Connecticut, I know you out there in Boston, I got friends in New York, so it just makes sense for me to try and get some type of New England tour happening in the spring, which is a beautiful time out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yep.
Other than that, I'm really trying to solidify this subgenre that I'm creating, which is basically like dab music to dab to specifically. You know what I'm saying? Some dab tunes.
I'll say too, your music. So you're a little younger than me, and so you come from like a little generation, like right below me, and that's a generation that I found that there's less drums, it's more spacey stuff, and it took me a long time to really like get my mind around it. But your music was a lot of the stuff that really, I'm like, oh, now I get it, and like your stuff I really dig. And like it's got that. So if like I'm just telling people that if they haven't, like if they're the old heads like me and they don't always think it, check out Concept stuff, because I find that like the vocal clarity is great. Like that is something that's very important that a lot of people don't think about. Great vocal clarity, and it all works well together. And if you like Doom, I think
it's once again, he's definitely one of my biggest inspirations. And I plan to lean more back into that kind of like jazzy Mad Lib, type of style for We Gonna Need More Wax too. You know what I'm saying?
That's the new album?
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna be dropping next. Man, I'm just working on it now, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
What I really want to do is I want to send you this Google Drive folder, which is We Gonna Need More Wax 2 potential beats. You know what I'm saying? So I'll send that to you. You can check out some beats, you know what I'm saying? If anything jumps out to you, definitely, you know what I mean, you should hop on that.
Oh, I'd love to.
We're gonna need more Wax too, man. Official start, like the official proclaimed start of the dab music genre.
But it's back again. I'm back to stacking ends, everything straight. And then another accident, another ticket, another scratch. And then could be anything. I've had bad luck with many things, but I know it ain't over over till a fat lady sings. Karma is a bitch and I wish I never met her. If I could go back, probably wouldn't do better, cause I chose my mistakes and I never felt pressure. Hard to beat the odds when you putting in no effort. I got so many woes, twice as many blessings. My homies share my woes, so if I call they steppin'. My homies, they my woes and solid with no question. The king of bad luck and all you niggas peasants, dog. Broke into my rental car, stole my license debit card. Take my identity, commit a little credit fraud. Wish I wasn't me, I'd probably be better off.
I got wolves, I got wolves, I got wolves, I got wolves. Yo, look, hey, so much has been unfortunate events, throwing jabs like a tournament. Sometimes I wanna hang the pin up like an ornament, but I just can't ignore my fate or run from it like Jonah did. Rich been creeping gump on me, I might just be your homeless friend. Seems the money runs from me, seems it's time to trap again. I just wanna stack again, but boy, shit keeps on happening. Thought I had this figured out, got pushed 3 spaces back again. Yo, plus my whip keep breaking down. Had to call Big Brody for a pack so I can break it down. Spilling out my heart and soul every time I'm rapping now. Spilling out my heart and soul. I just wanna make it now, but I don't wanna sell my soul. I don't wanna take that route. Honestly, just wanna grow while helping all my people out. Finally found my purpose, but karma hasn't balanced out. Finally found my purpose, but karma hasn't balanced out. Yo, I wish that God would talk to me. Maybe if I hit my heart, he might let Jesus walk with me. Yo, I wish that God would talk to me. Maybe if I hit my heart, he might let Jesus walk with me.